Yakuza Zero. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. This is Zero, the prequel game to the original classic. So, as far as Yakuza goes, I don't have a ton of experience with the franchise. I've only ever played through the entirety of Kiwami, which was the remake of the first game on PS4. Other than that, I really have very little experience with the franchise. I played about the first hour or two of Kiwami 2, which was a remake of the second game, but I figured I wanted to do a Yakuza game for this challenge, and I figured Zero would be a good middle ground. I had heard good things about it. I had heard it was similar to the first game, which I liked more than the little bit I played of 2. So I decided instead of starting 2 over and going through that one, I would go back to Zero, play through the prequel, and go from there sometime down the line, because I'm not doing another Yakuza game in this challenge. But as far as this game goes, what are my thoughts? Well, this is certainly the biggest, longest game I've played so far. I'm trying to pick a few games here and there throughout the year that are a little bit of a bigger adventure, maybe more open. So this one might be a weird kind of rambly video. I haven't really thought about much. I just beat the game a few minutes ago, so I haven't really collected my thoughts. This is kind of going to be a stream of conscious, I don't know, spitting it out there. But overall, I'm going to try to stay spoiler free. I'm not going to go super in depth to the plot or anything like that. I'll simply break it down as best I can. Gameplay, absolutely so much fun. To play this game is an absolute blast. I think as far as the combat goes, I'm from the little bit I've played of 2, I was not a huge fan of the way the direction seemed to go in the franchise. But playing this, which combat-wise played a lot more like the first game, I fell right back into it, really enjoyed the combat, playing through, unlocking more abilities. The big thing of this game is that you're going back and forth between playing as Kiryu and Majima. And Majima was my favorite part of Kiwami. So being able to play as him in this game, him being such a central focal point in the story, was fantastic. It was great. Overall, I think the best part of the game probably was the story. I mean, the gameplay was great, but there were a few things I didn't like. Mainly that, to me at least, as I played through the game, I felt like a lot of the combat with random enemies became more and more frustrating as I went along. Not because it became more difficult, but it felt to me like, and maybe it was like this way in the first game, but I don't remember. It's been a while since I played it. But in Zero, I felt like the further I progressed in the story, the more the combat with random enemies that you come across was so drawn out. The fights with random people at the beginning of the game, you fight 2 or 3 guys, takes a couple minutes. But later I felt like I would run into guys who are just as shitty, but you fight like 6 to 10 of them at a time, and it takes forever, and you still don't get very much money/experience for it. So to me, I kind of felt like about halfway through the game, I started just never getting in any combat with anyone if I could avoid it, which sucks because that's part of what makes the game fun, is that kind of combat, the random fighting of the enemies. But like, to not want to do that that's definitely a detriment, I can say. One of the few negatives about the game was that part. But as far as the story goes, I absolutely loved the story. I thought it was especially someone like me, who I'm not a huge Yakuza fan. I've only played the first game, basically. So to jump into Zero, which is essentially a prequel mainly for the first game, I'm sure there are probably elements maybe sprinkled within to the later games that had come before this. But for me, as someone who liked the first game, this was a great setup for a lot of characters. It also introduced a lot of characters who I really ended up liking or wanting to like kick the shit out of. Like, they did a great job of all the characters, I thought, and nothing felt too forced or like they were going back on retconning stuff. As best I could tell, it seemed like everyone played their part the same way or evolved as the story went on, so you could kind of see where they end up when you meet them in the first game. Overall, so yeah, story 100% awesome. Gameplay, I really liked the combat, absolutely. Side missions, I did not do nearly as many as I did in the first game. You can kind of imagine by doing something like this, where I'm playing through so many games in a short period of time, I'm trying not to devote too much time to stuff that's not essential to beat the game. But I did play around a little bit with a couple of things. I actually found that playing in one of my favorite things about Yakuza is doing all of the kind of like Grand Theft Auto in a way. A lot of the best parts of the game are the, I guess you could call them mini games, where you go in and you can, play pool, you can play darts, you can do karaoke, you can dance, and that stuff I felt like was really, really great in Zero. I actually liked it more than in Kiwami. I thought they did an excellent job. I really enjoyed going in and bowling and all that stuff. That was super fun. So I felt like a lot of the side quests, at least the ones I experienced, right? Because there's so many that I did not do. So this could be completely wrong, just biased because of how much I experienced. But from what I played, a lot of the side quests seemed to be all just very dialogue heavy and no actual like gameplay involved. Now, some of them I felt were fun. There was one in particular where you go to a clan that's kind of like messing around in the streets, and you have to kind of go undercover and like pretend like you're going to join. And that was really fun because it gave you a bunch of options in conversation to choose from, and you have to say the right thing. And it's like, to me, that was a blast. But when you're just meeting someone and just like they're telling you their story, you tell them, what's already programmed into the game. You're not actually selecting anything. And then they just tell you, oh, okay, thanks. And then mission complete. I just felt like, okay, I wasted my time because, unless it was a laugh riot, which they're not all laugh riots, it kind of felt like a waste of time. So that's kind of where I felt, that's kind of where I lay on the side quests for the little that I did play. The experience was another weird thing that's different from Kiwami, and I think mainly, maybe different from all the Yakuza games, I'm not sure. But this game focused on money rather than experience points. So to level up your character, you have to get money, which is also used for everything else in the game. So if you want to buy like health upgrade, or not health upgrades, but like health potions, stuff to help you out, weapons, shit like that, you need to have money. You also need to have that same money to level up. Now, there are a lot of ways that they introduce to get a lot of money, but a lot of them require time. Both Kiryu and Majima have different things they can do to get a lot of money quickly, but that requires you to play a long-term kind of game within a game to get that money, which I would not be against doing. But in my situation where I'm not trying to put too much time, this is definitely the longest it's taken me to beat a game yet. It's not to say that I struggled with this game, because I didn't. I actually had a great time all the way through. It's just that, balancing life work and this, when it's a game like this where you want to just fuck around all day, it's like, I felt the pressure of continuing the story. And also remembering the story, because there's, Yakuza games have a lot of like names and places, and you got to remember it all. And it's like, to play through it and keep all that in your head, to me, I had to like keep going, because it's like, okay, well, I learned new stuff about the story, and I'm like, well, I don't want to forget this. I want to remember like what was going on. So I keep going. But in the end, I really had a great time with this game. Really, absolutely recommend it if you've ever played a Yakuza, and like, if you played the first one like me and kind of like gave up after that, Zero is such a great way to get you sucked in. It makes me upset because I kind of wish I could just go play Kiwami 2 now, but I have a big ass list of games to go through this year, so that's going to have to wait till next year, unfortunately. But this was exactly what I needed, coming off of 9 games that were all pretty short. I mean, Halo was a little long, but most of the games I played so far this year have been pretty short, so it was nice to kind of take a step back, really dig my claws into a world like this, and revitalize my interest in the Yakuza games. So I definitely loved it. Absolutely glad I played it, and I'm looking forward to the next game in the challenge, and I hope you will too. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time.